See, there's more. There's more of the DC Sports Huddle. Yes, an extra edition. And check your PayPal account. There will be no extra charge for this. By the way, we are presented to you by MGM National Harbor. It's time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. I'm Dave Johnson. At least that's what the script says, along with Rob Woodfork, Ben Raby, George Wallace, Dave Preston. Here we go. We're going to look ahead, but mostly it's our end of 2021 awards. Our first category. From what did David Letterman used to say from the home office in McLean, Virginia? Yeah, right. Sioux City, Iowa, someplace like that. Our first category of the year, Breakthrough Athlete of the Year. To get the conversation going, I'm going to suggest and nominate my Breakthrough Athlete of the Year. And I know it comes from the sport that's near and dear to me is soccer, but I think it's something we should celebrate. Trinity Rodman of the Washington Spirit. To me, she came onto the scene. Forget the fact she's Dennis Rodman's daughter. She's now Dennis Rodman is Trinity Rodman's father. It's flipped and reversed. She was a big reason why the Washington Spirit claimed that title. But moreover, this is a player that we're going to have to continue to watch because she's going to be a star for the U.S. women's national team, I truly believe. Dave Preston, you've got the holiday sweater. You're next.
I'm going to Plan B already. I'm going to audible at the line of scrimmage, Dave. Talia Tagovailoa started every game for Maryland football this fall. That's just the third time that's happened within the program since 2003. He threw for over 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns. He has Maryland bowling for the first time in 5 years. This kid's got the magic. The question is, moving forward, can the Terps surround him with talent? But Talia Tagovailoa is my breakout athlete of the year in 2021.
All right, Ben Raby, you look smart. You got lots of books behind you. I doubt you read any of them. But anyway, you're Breakthrough Athlete of the Year.
Picture books back there, too, I assure you. Dave, I like your choice there, Presto. I'm going to keep it also to a sport that's dear to me, sport of tennis. 17-year-old Robin Montgomery, D.C. native. She's a Grand Slam champion, U.S. Open Junior Girls title in the fall. She won singles. She won doubles. A lot of players who win those Junior Grand Slam titles go on to big things. She's ready to start her pro career in earnest, a product of the JTCC, Junior Tennis Champions Center in College Park. Robin Montgomery, big title, international win, my breakthrough athlete for 2021.
God, please, I hope she breakthroughs. That way I don't have to call Ben at 3 a.m. to find out how to pronounce somebody's name, because that's a big challenge sometimes with tennis. Rob Woodfork, breakthrough athlete.
Cam Newton. No, I'm kidding. Taylor Heineke is actually my breakthrough athlete of the year. I mean, everybody knows the iconic dive for the pylon, which came in a loss, which is weird because it's weird to sort of make an icon out of something that happened in a loss. But anyways, he's been a compelling story. We all know by now, going from his sister's couch to being an NFL starter. So regardless of how he played in the most recent game, which we'll touch on Wednesday, he has been a very compelling story and certainly a guy that is a household name, at least in the Washington, D.C. area, almost overnight.
He was almost my comeback player because of the going from sister's couch to all of a sudden now starter in the NFL. So that's what we can do about these categories. We can debate who belongs in what category. That's a good choice. All right, George Wallace, we're waiting. Yeah. You have a breakthrough athlete of the year.
Yeah, I do. And actually, Rob took. I thought you're supposed to stick to a different sport there.
No, you could go.
Yeah, no, I was actually gonna say that too, because look, we know what the story is with him. We know what the record is with this team. They win the division at the beginning of the year with an under 500 record. The guy was on his couch. It was with Alex Smith coming back and not able to play in that playoff game. Who would have thought? They made a t-shirt out of that. They make a t-shirt out of that dive and loss. So for me, and then for what he was able to do again this season, Ryan Fitzpatrick brought in to kind of bridge the gap between him and a new quarterback coming in, but he gets hurt the second quarter of the season. Heineke comes in, hasn't really missed up until last week with the COVID issues, but has been kind of steady, 4-game losing streak, but then the 4-game winning streak, he was able to do some good things for a guy that started in the XFL. Nobody wanted. He was taking classes at ODU. So, I mean, it is, regardless of where this season ends up, it is a compelling story.
Yeah, and by the way, he was also snubbed by Heineken, and Bud Light came to the rescue. Yeah. So that's another reason why we've got to root for Taylor Heineke. All right, comeback athlete of the year. And I promise not everything I do is going to be about soccer, but I think if you cover a certain sport, you know it more than others at times. And it's going to be Andy Nahar of DC United. He is a local kid. He's a representative of what the American dream can represent. His family is from Honduras. He grew up in this area. He's a DC United Academy product, went on to star in Europe, but then his career was in jeopardy. He didn't think he'd be back this past season. Suddenly, Aaron Alasada, his coaching staff, gives him a new lease on life. He becomes a regular starter and also a guy who's back with his national team, and also an example to young kids in this area that dreams can come true. And maybe one day, some of those kids will also represent the U.S. national team. So my comeback athlete of the year is Andy Nahar of DC United, because his career, which included international competition and European competition, was almost over, and he came back this year. Dave Preston, comeback athlete of the year.
I'm out at Nats Park early and often throughout the course of the season, but this is going to go up a little up I-95. The Orioles, Trey Mancini battled colon cancer in 2020. He belted 21 homers, 71 RBI this past summer. Not career highs, but my goodness, to be able to come back and play on an everyday basis after slaying the demon and the evil that is cancer. Major props to this guy. And I look forward to seeing how well he does in 2022. And I hope I'm saying that Steven Strasburg is our comeback athlete of the year next year at this time.
Wow. Good preview for our next episode. Anyway, Ben Raby, you're next. Comeback athlete of the year.
I think this is a terrific story, not just locally, but nationally in college hoops. A DC native, Jelani Williams, point guard at Penn University, an alum from Sidwell Friends, tore his ACL not once, not twice, but 3 times over the past 4 years. And when he was finally eligible to return, or healthy enough to return to competition last year, the Ivy League canceled the season due to the COVID-19. They were the only league, the only conference, the Ivy, to cancel play all last year, all winter sports. So Jelani Williams had to wait an extra year. He is a 5th-year senior. Got on the court this year, not only playing, he's a starter. He has started all 13 games as of this recording, voted a team captain. Jelani Williams, terrific comeback story. My DC comeback athlete of the year.
That we should just stop that, because
I
he
know.
should be the comeback athlete of the year.
Good one.
I was going to steal it, but I thought, no, that's Ben's story. He discovered it again from Sidwell Friends. 5 years it takes him to get back on the basketball court, and he's starting. But we'll continue with this category. But Ben, you win the prize. There must be lovely parting gifts for Ben backstage. Anyway, Rob Woodfork, continue.
Well, mine's not as good as that, but I'm going to say Ryan Zimmerman, just because every year seems to be a retirement year for him, at least for the last couple of seasons. And he embraced the reduced role in 2021 and played very well in that role. So he's my comeback player of the year, and I guess we'll see if there's even a season for him to come back to in 2022.
Most importantly, he finally got the salt line open in Ballston. So,
all right. Well, then maybe he should be anyway. George Wallace, comeback athlete of the year.
I really can't. I really have nothing to tell. I was going to kind of go a Zimmerman thing, but I have that for a different category. But Jelani Williams for me, I'm just going to end it right there. I can't really have anybody to top that. I was trying to think of something else as far as Wizards are concerned, really. But, nobody else really kind of fits that category. And even on Washington, too, I was trying to think who really, Alex Smith, you go for last year, and he didn't really play at the beginning of this year. But that was the heck of the story if we had done this at the end of last year. But I'm gonna stick with what you guys have gone with. Okay. All right. So that's George Wallace. So now we'll move on. Let's say moment of the year. Next category, guys. You ready for this? Moment of the year? All right. And this is another hard one. And here we go again. And I know there's all kinds of other sports played in the district. I'm going to go with soccer again and give it to the Washington Spirit winning a title. And it's not just because they won a title, but as I watched them win that title, this franchise, we weren't sure it was going to stay in the city. We weren't sure if so many things that this team would fall under the weight of various litigation going on involving the team. The coach gets fired, so many things, so much adversity. And then they're standing there as champions of professional women's soccer. So that to me was a moment, a special moment, because I can't believe the journey they were on. Their season was shut down twice, once for COVID and once for sexual harassment situations going on throughout the entire league. Usually the script doesn't say you fire your coach and you win a title, but that's what happened to the Washington Spirit. Dave Preston.
Well, first of all, Dave, you win this round if we're assigning wins and losses. And also, that was my answer, so you can skip me.
Okay.
Well, my moment of the year, Dave, Max Scherzer, before being traded, gave us awesome theater every time he took the mound. This past May 2nd, Max tossed a complete game 5 hitter against Miami, struck out 9 in a Nats 3-1 victory. He then bolted the stadium for the birth of his child. In 20 years, Max is going to be the topic of many legendary tales, but for us, over a 6.5-year span, all this stuff was real. All the, from his no-hitter where they had to put his jersey in the dryer because he was sweating, to the 20 strikeout night, to him stealing a base, to him, having neck problems and having to miss a start, to him, starting in the playoffs and just being like a Paul Bunyan-like character. This, unfortunately, was the last moment of those great moments that we got to experience from Max, but it's one that I'm going to remember for some time.
So he's going to be like the Chuck Norris jokes, right?
Yes. Bill Brasky.
Ben Raby.
It was appointment viewing, Max, no question. A moment of the year, I'll go to the ice here, and I'll pay tribute to TJ Oshie, who this feels like eons ago now, but going back to last May, Capitals were in New York playing the Rangers. It was the game after there was an incident involving Tom Wilson, and the game unfolded. There were fights galore, 6 fights between the Capitals and Rangers. An opening face-off line brawl took place. And then in the second period, when things finally settled down, TJ Oshie scored twice. And then in the third period, he completed a hat trick. And it was noteworthy because it was TJ Oshie's first game after the passing of his father, famously known as Coach Osh, affectionately known by the team. He had suffered through Alzheimer's, somebody obviously very close, very important in TJ's life and his hockey career. And he went out and he recorded a hat trick for the first time in his career in more than 4 years. And you could tell there was an extra something special with him that night when so much else was going on with the fights and the storylines and the rivalry with the Rangers. TJ Oshie had a moment. He later revealed, he said it was one of the best nights of his professional career, one of the most meaningful games of his career. I'll give it the moment of the year, sports-wise.
It definitely is a moment. Rob, you're going Washington Spirit. Anything else you want to add to that? Because it was a great moment. Somehow this team won a title.
What was it? 8 of their last 9 matches they won. I mean, just an incredible run, an incredible, just exclamation point to what could have been the unraveling of that franchise. And instead, it ended up being a watershed moment in a more positive light.
Somebody needs to look up how many champions exist with interim head coaches, because that's what Chris Ward was at the time of the Washington Spirit. He was just the caretaker coach. Nice job, coach. You led him to a title. Yeah. George Wallace, your moment of the year.
All right, I'm going to give you, it relates to the Nationals because nothing was really great about this season for them, but I'm going to give you kind of 1.5 moments. The top one, Ryan Zimmerman taken out of the game in that finale. I mean, just what a moment. He comes out in the 9th inning, gets the ovation, and who knows, he still may be back, but if he's not, I love how they said they would have regretted not doing that at that time. And Davey Martinez taking it out, the opposition standing on the top step of the dugout, the Red Sox acknowledging him as well. Very cool moment in DC. If it ends like that, I mean, you can't top that, especially when he saw his friends kind of leave from that World Series. So they kind of 1B on that for me. I mean, it was really cool to see Soto and Kevin Long in Dodger Stadium in Max and Trey Turner jerseys in that playoff game. Like, for me, I thought that was very cool. That's a great moment. Didn't necessarily happen here, but with those guys, that's how you could tell how close-knit that group was. To win the World Series, they'll have that moment forever. And then to have that kind of moment in Dodger Stadium, and just to see the excitement on Max and Trey's faces too when they see their guys sitting there with pretty good tickets, by the way, behind home plate there in that game. That was pretty cool.
I'm shocked it's not sewage didn't get any votes.
It's not sewage.
Not sewage.
And by the way, the best part about that, what Dave Preston's talking about, is the leak coming at FedEx Field. You see videos each week about the suites leaking and sewage coming down and water coming down. The fact that a staff member from the organization has to come over and quote, tell the media it's not sewage. That's just, it's just not.
That's peak Washington. Although I will note that there was a similar situation at the brand new stadium, SoFi Stadium out in Los Angeles. So, I mean, if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere.
I must have lost my categories. I lost the category about building incident of the year, which we'll have to add next year to the
We add that on later.
and hashtag stop sewage was a great trending hashtag. Well, the great thing about the DC Sports Huddle, the longer you talk, the more you change your mind. And for next category we're going to go to is story of the year. And I was leaning toward Dan Snyder and the situation with the Washington football team and the fact that he's removed as president, because I think it's a story that is going to keep on going. There still needs to be more to the story, and the NFL still needs to release the report. But I'm going to go with the fire sale of the Nationals, and it's not to me a negative story. Yes, it is a negative in a sense that it was a big moment in Washington sports. When you think about it, it's not that long ago we were celebrating a World Series, but it also was a sobering moment that allowed us to reflect on how much these players and this team and its rise to a World Series champion meant to us as a city, when for so many years, all I covered was, would DC get baseball? Well, now we're talking about, okay, it's the end of a run for a World Series team, but suddenly there's something that never existed in DC, and that's hope for the future of baseball, that somehow Mike Rizzo and company will craft another run. So to me, it was a seminal moment. Yes, a negative, a realization that they'd gone as far as they could go with this team as constructed, but the belief that, yeah, there might be a better future ahead for Washington baseball. Dave Preston.
I'm going to go with the story that we've been talking about early and often here, the Washington Spirit. Somehow they found a way amidst a swirling mess of a team culture to right the ship, find a way to win the NWSL, showing that sometimes the spirit of the team can't be undercut by massive mismanagement. And they also continue Washington's run as the District of Champions. I mean, it's amazing how many championships we, as a city in an area, and I even bring in the Washington Castles that we have had the opportunity to cover and celebrate over the last decade or so. And so the Washington Spirit, definitely my story of the year.
No, and that's a good point. You know, we'll talk about different leagues that may not have a similar provenance, but you talk to the athletes that compete in these leagues, the world team tennis, whatever, they're dead serious about it. And to win a championship is a big thing. Ben Raby, story of the year.
I'm going to piggyback off of the Nationals fire sale and link it a little bit to the Washington Capitals, keeping that window open. It's not easy to do, to sustain success, to be among the league's best for more than a decade, which the Capitals are now working on. And here we are, ho-hum, the end of 2021. And where are they? Fighting for top spot again in the NHL's overall standings. Security, long-term contracts, TJ Oshie, John Carlson, Nick Backstrom, Kuznetsov, and now, not surprisingly, Alex Ovechkin with his 5-year deal over the summer that he signed. A lot of runway for Ovechkin to potentially add another Stanley Cup, and of course, to continue to gain ground on Wayne Gretzky for the all-time goal-scoring record. I'll say the long-term stability of the Washington Capitals, how they're able to sustain that with Ovechkin's contract over the summer, the latest example.
Rob Woodfork, your story of the year.
I'm going to go with the one that you passed on, and that's the Dan Snyder debacle surrounding the Washington football team. Look, I mean, first of all, props to the Washington Post for the great reporting that they've done over the course of 2021. I mean, what was it, 2 or 3 big stories that they dropped about this horrible culture surrounding the franchise? And with Dan Snyder, you know, in exile, even though we're still seeing him at games, you know, I just think that this is the foundation for a big change coming to that organization. I know to this point, the NFL has been burying the results of the Beth Wilkinson investigation, but there's going to come a time where, and just like with the name controversy, there's going to come a time where you can't bury it anymore. And corporate sponsors or whatever it is going to force you to, you know, have a reckoning with this. And so I think that reckoning is coming. I think that reckoning is coming relatively soon. And I think 2021 is always going to be the year that sort of laid the foundation for that to happen.
And it will be the sponsors that force it. It always is. George Wallace, story of the year.
My story was the Nationals fire sale, like you talked about, Dave, just because it's one of those situations where, you know, we got so accustomed to seeing this team, quote unquote, go for it every year. And then when they hit that series with the Cubs and Jim, what were they, Dave, what were they? What were we talking? We were just talking about the other day, 3 games under 500.
Yeah, well, they were 40-38. They had a rough July, and then they pulled the ripcord at that point in time, and it was, curtains thereafter.
Yeah, and just to see how quickly it's and look, you got to give Mike Rizzo credit. I mean, he knew it was not going to happen. He had conversations with the veterans. He pulled the plug, and I think everybody was okay with it. I fan wise, except the Trey Turner thing. The Trey Turner thing for me was the learners are telling you that we're not going to be able to sign this guy in 2 years. Forget about this offseason. We're talking about 2 years from now. We're just telling you right now, we're not going to be able to sign this guy. I think everybody else that was traded in that situation, the fans are 100% fine with. Max is always going to be a big part of the city. Max is always going to be Max Scherzer. Coming back with the Mets, it takes a bit, but it's a little bit of a sting, but he's always going to be like that. We just talked about that 2019, that they're always going to have that. This city's always going to have that. And to see it kind of just go so quickly within the matter of hours.
So quick.
It's just something that we haven't seen because as Rob mentioned, or you mentioned, Dave, we're talking about, we were just so excited to get baseball. And then the success that this team put on the field and this front office, able to give this city to culminate with the World Series, and then, to see it go that quickly. But look, this is why you stockpile, minor league system. You get to that point and then you don't tear it all the way down. Let's not forget, guys, they do have a guy named Juan Soto still here. But then you're able to not go all the way back down like the Orioles have done, but you kind of keep it within striking distance and hopefully within 2 years. So for me, that was the big story of the year. You can argue Taylor Heineke is a great story. Yeah, but they're still, 3 games under 500 now. They lost a playoff game to the Bucks, fine. But that don't get me wrong, that's a great story. But for me, the overall story of the year is this Nationals July 31st trade deadline.
And I remember how quickly it happened. Like Scherzer and Turner are the headliners, but I remember being in the newsroom that day at the sports desk. Daniel Hudson, Yan Gomes, John Lester, Kyle Schwarber. It was like every 20 minutes, another one was being pulled from the rug. And Kyle Schwarber, we haven't been able to fit him into the show yet. Maybe it's a moment, but what he did in June, that was appointment viewing. He was coming up and he was just blasting home runs. You could make him the cameo appearance of the year. His time in Washington was so brief, but he did make the most of it before his injury.
And
all right, no fair. Just because you have all the books, you only get one choice. You already made your selection in that category. All right, we got to go rapid fire here. The DC Sports Person or People of the Year, and also what you're most looking forward in 2022. So we can get this in. I'm going to go with Alex Ovechkin as the DC Sports Person of the Year. He's doing what he's doing at the age of 36. He might be the DC Sports Person of the Year for the next 5 years because, again, this is a once-in-a-generation player, and he's still getting it done at an incredible level. We can't celebrate him enough. What I'm most looking for in 2022 is my friend Wes Unseld Jr. I know this is personal, getting the Wizards to the playoffs, and it's a start of a long run for the Wizards because he more than paid his dues. Dave Preston, quickly.
Well, I'm going to go off the field here. Maryland Athletic Director Damon Evans oversaw the completion of a multi-million-dollar practice facility for football. And even though it was technically mutual, he definitely had something to do with the departure of men's basketball coach Mark Turgeon. So he's my person of the year, a newsmaker, as it were. I'm most looking forward to in 2022, the Capitals and Alex Ovechkin are defying father time. A roster that's one of the older ones in the league remains a contender, while Ovi at 36, close to leading the NHL in goals. And guess what? He's chasing down Wayne Gretzky's record of 894. How many goals will Ovi get this year, and how many playoff rounds will the Caps win? I'm looking forward to checking out both.
All right, Ben, DC Sports Person, and what you're looking most forward to in 2022.
For all the reasons we've stated, the Washington Spirit were in every category that we had, I think, this afternoon in this recording. Sports People, Sports Person of the Year, give it to the whole team, the Washington Spirit, for what they accomplished this year. As far as looking forward to 2022, I think what's been mentioned in passing, let's get a healthy Steven Strasburg on the mound. Let's see him pitch more than 26 innings combined as he has over the past 2 seasons. Let's get a healthy Steven Strasburg back on the mound, see what he has now as he inches closer towards the back end of that long-term contract.
Woodfork, Senator Woodfork, the floor is yours.
DC Sports Person of the Year, I got Alex Ovechkin for all the reasons that you so eloquently stated. I mean, he is right now a full-on assault on the record books now. I mean, we know he's a Hall of Famer, and that's been proven time and time again. But now it's a matter of how many records he can get and how far he can put them, out of reach for other hockey players. And I'm going to say what I'm looking forward to most in 2022 is Washington going to get a quarterback? This is a question we've asked for 30 plus years running. And, I think that Ron Rivera's tenure in Washington depends on how they address that in the offseason.
All right, George Wallace.
All right,
Drum roll, please.
I'm going Juan Soto as far as person/player of the year, what he's able to do, especially when he saw, his the support around him kind of disappear, as we just talked about quickly. Where he was able to finish the MVP voting. I mean, just tearing the cover off the baseball and playing a pretty good field as well. So for me, Juan Soto gets my vote as far as player of the year. And I'm looking forward to a couple things. One, this football team going to get a name? I think it is. I think we're going to get a new name next year. And also what direction Maryland basketball goes as far as head coach to run this program heading into next year.
All right, all good choices. Gentlemen, anything else that we left out? I know, Ben, you could create 17 more categories, but any other notes? We had great moments in building history with the sewage incident in FedEx Field, or no sewage, right? I need to clarify that for the lawyers.
No
Any other
sewage.
categories? Any other categories anybody wants to throw out?
Let's look forward to a strong 2022, fellas. Looking forward to the Capitals, what they have in store, the Washington football team getting back on track. We've said that how many years in a row? And the Nationals, let's see them get back on track, as well as the Wizards towards the playoff berth. Looking
Sports
forward.
Huddle taking another evolution, huh?
How about this?
Year 3?
How about no COVID protocols next year?
Yes.
How about that one?
That would be a
How
beautiful.
about, continue to do what we do safely, because obviously what we thought a year ago at this time was going to be ancient history is not going away. So stay safe and continue to do what we're doing. And how's that for vamping? I just wanted to get Dave Preston into the final picture. It's like a school picture as he was doing his updates. Anything else you want to add, Dave? We've all given as you did, your DC sports person, and what we're most looking forward to in 2022. Anything else you want to add before we call it a wrap on 2021 of the special?
Again, let's keep our fingers crossed and do the right thing, and try to get out of this situation where games are getting paused and canceled and things of that vein. In the last couple of weeks, just two schools for example, Georgetown and Maryland. Two schools that we think of when we think of local college basketball, especially on the men's side. They've had games canceled. Americans had a game canceled, that I can think of right now. Let's just try and get out of this thing together, guys. But that's what I love about sports. It gives us a chance to focus on the nice things as opposed to focusing on the nasty things.
Hey, Dave,
Hey,
Dave, I'm going to throw one at you. How about this for a moment/whatever transaction of the year? The Russell Westbrook trade to LA. What
Oh,
were you able to do there?
It did happen, didn't it?
Yeah, it did happen. And you know what? And now we're into overtime on this special show. But as I got to call Russell Westbrook breaking the unbreakable record, the Oscar Robertson career triple-double record, I was thinking, well, should that be a moment of the year? I mean, again, we're talking about a record that had stood for 50 some years, but you had to remember that Russell Westbrook was really in town. And I don't mean that as a shot. When he was in town, he gave his all, both on and off the court. And he will always be a special player, as I marvel at how he's conducted himself, again, on and off the court. And he was something to witness. But the speed in which he went through town, he was truly like a comet. And that's a good add-on.
I meant what Tommy Shepard was able to get for him to go.
No, I know. I agree. But I was also thinking another moment. See, now we can go another hour as we start to think of this is no, I agree, because now it ties into what I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah.
The West Sunset, the Wizards playoffs. This will all be available on the DC Sports Huddle outtakes, because Rob Woodfork now has to edit this on to a consumable piece of video. I do need to tell folks the DC Sports Huddle is sponsored by MGM National Harbor. Time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. For Ben Raby, George Wallace, Rob Woodfork, Dave Preston, I can't do this without a script. We have so many guys. Thank you for all your wonderful work. I'm Dave Johnson. Thank you for spending time with us.
Happy New Year.
Great. Peace and love in the new year.